Yeah, I'll tell a story. I've started reading a book again called Alchemist. I think I think a lot of people read it. Like a lot of people I've known read it. Got a friend recommended the book to me when I was in my 20s. I don't know, early 20s, probably like 10 years ago. And I didn't get around reading it back then, and then I read it in my late 20s, and I was talking about it with a friend the other day, and I just couldn't really remember what it was about. So I thought maybe I'd start reading it again. So I started a few days ago. Okay, I'm just going to finding your passion. I guess they call it the personal legends in the book. Finding your dream, going for your dream, I guess. And it starts out with, I think it starts out with a sentence that goes, boy's name was Santiago. And I thought, okay, who is Santiago? So he's meant to be a shepherd in this book. He has about 60 sheep. And I think he's 18 years old. Well, he talks about how he studied in theology school. I think that's a divinity school when he was until 16 years old. And then he quit because he didn't want to become a priest. And he wanted to, I guess, how he calls it, find God and to travel. So it starts out with a sentence that goes, let me just check again. I think it says, the boy's name was Santiago. Okay, so then I started looking into that because I was wondering, like, when I paint, everything I do has a meaning. There's no sort of, I don't do things out of chance. Everything has some symbolism. So I started looking into why the character's name was Santiago, and I found out that Santiago is Santiago is Spanish for Saint James. He's an apostle, James, one of 12 initial followers of Jesus. I didn't know that because I never really read the Bible before. So I had to look into it, and I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so Santiago is patron saint of Spain, and they believe that his remains were buried in Santiago de Compostela. It's a Spanish town, which is considered, they said it's considered third most holiest place after, I think it's Jerusalem and Rome. And a lot of people make, I think it's called pilgrimage to the town. So the name is associated with pilgrims, which means seeker after spiritual connection. So the book having sort of like a, I think they call it more like a self-help book to find your dream, and the fact that the character's name is Santiago, I think that sort of has a lot of meaning to it. Anyways, so it starts out with him, Oh, okay, another thing. So I read into that, but the character's name, and then I thought, still, why is that? And kind of looked into the writer. His name Paulo Coelho, and I read that in 1986, I think. In 1986, he actually walked about 500 plus miles, I think, to Santiago de Compostela, and that's where he, I guess, found this spiritual, I don't know, what do you call it? Okay, see, that's where he found his faith again. And he talks about how when he made that trip, so basically so when he made that trip, he was making good money and he was in love, everything was great, but he always wanted to be a writer, and something just, like, he still had that dream. And by walking that trip, that's when he decided to live for his dream again. And I thought that was pretty interesting because I sort of have a similar experience. Before becoming an artist, I worked for 10 years as a chemical regulatory affairs analyst. I worked in big companies and I made good money. Life was really comfortable. I worked really hard to make my life very comfortable. But then, I don't know, you just know when something's not right and everything just felt quite empty. Like, you like the comfort and all, but you just have this feeling like you're just a shell. So, I don't know, something just didn't seem right. And then I started doing art part-time in the evenings and on the weekends when I was 25, but I still couldn't let go of the comfort, stability and the money that the job was giving me. So I stayed, and then I'll get to that story later, how I fully gave up and became a full-time artist. Anyway, so back to Santiago. So it starts with Santiago, and he's at this abandoned church, which I find it quite interesting as well, because Santiago left his divinity school because he didn't want to be a priest to find God, and he became a shepherd. That led him to walk all over the, I think it's called Andalusian terrain, for 2 years with his sheep. I mean, I find that quite sort of a little bit aimless in a way. I think that's how it's meant to sort of seem. And then the whole book starts in an abandoned church, and in this abandoned church, which has no roof, has a big sycamore tree growing in the middle of it through the roof. And I mean, again, I looked it up. It's like, why sycamore tree out of all the freaking trees? And I found that the tree, sycamore tree, has a symbolism as well. It's used also in Bible. I think there's a lot of like a Bible reference. I think it's because of the writer's religion and how he came to sort of write the book. So, well, anyway, in the Bible, I think it symbolizes clarity. So I think that kind of makes sense as well. Also, I read that sycamore tree is native to Egypt, and in the book, the main character ends up leaving to Egypt to find his treasure. I don't know, I haven't read that far. I don't really remember how it turned out, so. Anyway, so he's at this church, abandoned church, which I find it quite creepy. I'm scared of anything abandoned. Anyways, and he's thinking about his sheep and his life as a shepherd, and the way he talks about his sheep are quite, and it's sort of like he likes them, but he also sort of looks down on them in a way. Like, what did he say? He said something like, oh yeah, so he spent the night at the church, and in the morning when he was waking up, like he woke up and the sheep woke up at the same time, and he thought, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, maybe I'm used to the sheep, or maybe they're used to me. And I thought that was sort of similar to how it felt when I had that job as a regulatory affairs analyst. Kind of felt like, yeah, I'm used to the job, quite comfortable with it, sort of feeling. But then, was I comfortable with the job? Or did I like the job? Or was I just accustomed to it? And I don't know, it's sort of something that you're not quite sure about. Anyway, so back to the book. Keeps straying. My mind goes sort of all over the place, so you have to excuse me. And it's really hard when you're painting and talking at the same time. I'm using a lot of brain power. Last time I did this live and talking at the same time, I got sick for 3 days after because I was so tired after. Anyway, so again, back to Santiago. So Santiago was thinking about this dream he had, and he had it twice already, the exact same dream twice, and he thought, that's very strange. I'd like to know what that's all about. Sorry, is what his father said. But Santiago is like, well, I don't care, I still want to travel. So his dad, this really nice guy, gave him these 3 Spanish coins, gold coins, which he said was meant for Santiago's inheritance. But he said, you can use this to get them sheeps and do what you want and come back. Santiago bought sheeps with it, and he has 60 sheep. That's a lot of sheep, I thought. I don't really quite know how many sheep shepherds had back in the days, but that's quite a lot of sheep. I was like, oh, it's quite well off, 16-year-old with 60 sheep. Anyways, and then off he went, but he spent the next 2 years sort of wandering about till he had these dreams he had. And anyway, so he couldn't wait to go to this Tarifa town, to this hot girl that he fell for. And yeah, so off he went, and he arrived at the dream interpreter's house. It's like gypsy lady. So he told her about the dream he had, and it was that, I don't know if I can remember properly, but basically he was in Egypt and then was told there was a treasure for him, and then he went to go find out what the treasure was, and then he like woke up and ended up finding it. So he goes to the gypsy lady, what is this dream about? And she goes, well, it's about, the dream is about that you will go to Egypt and find a treasure. So Santiago's like, well, I don't have to fucking come all the way here for that. Because she didn't really give him any other meanings to it. So he kind of didn't want to pay her. And then she said, you don't have to pay me anything, but when you find this treasure, you give me 1/10 of the treasure. So he goes, okay. And then he left. And then after that, he went and got a haircut to show off to the merchant girl that he really liked. And then what did he do? Went and did some wine tasting. That's really nice. Did some wine tasting on a bench. So that sounded pretty nice. And then he swapped his book that he had for a thicker book, because he wanted to get a thicker book, because he used his book as a pillow when he was traveling, and he thought the book that he already had was too thin. So he got a thicker book and he started reading it on a bench somewhere, I think. And then there's this like old dude that came and he started chatting him up. Like one of those really annoying people that just sort of like talk to you and you really don't want to be spoken to. So in the beginning he was sort of kind of polite to the old man, and then later on he got a little bit annoyed. The old man started making conversations, saying stuff like, what book are you reading? I've read that book before. It's not that, it's pretty crap. Yada yada yada. And then he wanted to say something like how he's from Salem, and that he was king of Salem. Santiago is like, oh, what a crazy dude. Sort of like brushed him off. And then, what did he say? I can't remember how he got Santiago's attention, but I think he's sort of talking about personal legend. How people, when they're young, have this dream, and then they get older, and then they forget about their dream, sort of thing. So this old man, his name is I think it's Melchizedek, and he said that he basically said he's like this immortal being that helps people find their dream again and reach it. And he said that he wanted to help Santiago out because Santiago was about to sort of give up his personal legend. I think that's what it means, like, I think when Santiago went to, like, was like, I don't know, daydreaming about this merchant girl. Basically that means settling, I guess. And I think that was sort of like a warning sign or something of him possibly settling. I don't know. So, I don't know, they talk about this dream and dream, oh shit, Santiago's dream about the treasure. So the guy, Melchizedek, says it's under a pyramid. I think that's what he said, I can't remember. Under a pyramid, and that tomorrow, if Santiago brings 1/10 of his sheep, he will tell him how to get to his treasure. So Santiago goes away, sort of thinks about it and all. The next day decides that he will go for it. I think I've ruined this. Go for it and manage to bring 6 sheep and says that he was able to sell the rest of it to his friend in the town who owns a stable. So Melchizedek's like, yeah, that's kind of what happens when you're meant to like go for your dreams. Things sort of like kind of like fall into places, and that's the first thing that's happened. Yeah. Anyways, and then Melchizedek, the king of Salem, ends up giving oh wait, no, he opens up his cape first, and then when he opens up his cape, he's wearing this gold-plated armor, and then Santiago's like, whoa, like, he must be a king of Salem. It's like, dude's rich, with gold plates, and then in that gold-plated gold breastplate, pulls up these 2 stones. One is black, one is white, called Urim and Urim and Tumen. I don't know if I'm saying that right. So, black one is meant for yes, and the white one is meant for no. So there's these stones that you sort of like, if you get stuck along the way, you can ask an objective question and like ask the stones to get yes or no answer. Pretty cool. And then sends him off to Egypt. So by this time, Santiago sort of like hasn't even bumped into that girl he likes. He gives that up to go find his treasure. Cool. So then, obviously I sort of looked into stuff a bit more. Again, like, who is this Melchizedek? Why is this Melchizedek? And then, I found that the same name is used in the Old Testament, I think. I don't know, Exodus 28:15 or something. I don't know if I'm remembering it correct. Anyways, so in there, there's a dude named Melchizedek also, who is king of Salem, and he asks 1/10 of treasure from Abraham for blessing him. I kept thinking, like, why 1/10? What's with this 1/10? Like, why 1/10? I think it's just sort of like, it's put in the book just to sort of show that it's the same Melchizedek. I don't know. Couldn't really find the proper answer to it, but I think that's why. Anywho, so I've got to do this bit. Yeah, so I only wrote up to that part so far, and then it kind of made me think doing that. I think it puts a lot of pressure on kids, but anyway, it's back when I was young. So I remember putting down artist, painter as my dream, and then I don't know, life happened, and like adolescent was really hard because I was alone. I was alone since I was 11, and money was really, well, non-existent. So I kind of just wanted a stability in my life. So, like, when I was doing my HSC, that's what you call oh shit, I don't know what you call anywhere else. You know, like college exam, I guess. Test you do in year 12, end of high school. Well, I did that, and then I applied for science field instead. It was sort of like the second thing I was good at, and I thought, well, if I become an artist, like, I'm gonna be super poor for the rest of my, I don't know, existence or something like that. And then just wanted like a stable income, and just wanted to live in a house where I didn't have to move. I think by the time I was maybe 18, I must have moved like at least 20 places since I was 11. So, I don't know, I just wanted to sort of be. Anyways, so I got into I got into biomedical science for my bachelor. Then I did my bachelor's, did fine. Graduated, and then everyone else was doing, I don't know, honors or like doctorate or masters or whatnot, and I don't know, everyone was doing it, and so I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to do something. So I did my masters in molecular biotechnology, and to be honest, like, I don't remember a lot of things I did in university because I was never really interested. I just did it because it was just something that I thought I'd do. So I just sort of, I mean, I was pretty lucky in the sense that I was able to do something I didn't quite enjoy, but I didn't, like, I didn't fail anything, so it wasn't like half that bad. It was just, I think if I was failing heaps and struggling, then maybe I would have thought about changing it. Maybe it should have been that way, I don't know. But I didn't, so I thought, oh, well, I'm doing it, so I guess I'll just keep doing it. So I did my masters, and then after I did my masters, I gotta get a job. So I somehow, no, I never worked in a lab, which was good because, to be honest, like labs don't really pay that well. I was really lucky. I found a job called regulatory affairs. It's more like an office. Well, it is an office job. Didn't have to work in lab once, so I did that, and I liked it. Well, I didn't know. Guess I liked it because I was getting paid, and by 28 I was getting paid quite a lot for my age, and I like that. But I hated work. I remember a lot of mornings for 10 years. I cried every morning because I didn't want to go to work. I think I cried in the bathroom because I hadn't been there. But I don't know, I managed somehow. Then I got to my 30 and 31, I was making more money and working in a big company, and life was settling down, and I met my husband, and everything was going great. So more and more giving up everything to become a full-time artist was just sort of like not really there, which is pretty sad. But I think like my Melchizedek came. So the Melchizedek in the book Alchemist, he says how he appears in different form in everyone's life. So it could be a person, or it could be an object, or it could be an event like a hardship, just something so they can nudge you in the right direction to your dream. And I think there's a good quote. I'm just gonna see if I can find it. What is the quote? I think it goes along the lines something like, if you realize your dream, or if you realize your dream, universe will conspire to do whatever, I don't know whatever they can do to, can you see this bit in the camera?
Yep.
To whatever they can, so you can achieve that dream. So I think when mine came as more of a hardship. Okay, so I think I'm done with this bit. I think I want to do a glazing over, but a bit more detail here, but I'm going to move up. Can you see both here?
Yep.
How's this look? Is it better than before?
Wow. Whoa, that looks amazing.
No, because it looks pink stalk, and I was like,
yeah, that looks right.
Doesn't look right. Okay. Thank you. Put some shade in here. So I'm using burnt umber, and what is it? I'm using burnt umber and quinacridone magenta and a permanent rose. Okay. What was I at? It's really hard. I'm not just using a lot of brainage right now, because I'm not just trying to remember what I'm trying to say detailed in the book. I'm also pregnant, and I have like the most severe pregnant brain. So I'm 5 months along, and I don't remember the days anymore. I had to to go to a urologist today because I'm having a lot of problem at the moment. And then, so I finished with the doctor. She was really lovely. I felt really, I'm really lucky that I had a really lovely doctor. And then I have to say, have a good day. Usually, like, I tend to say if it's Friday or Thursday, I say have a good weekend. But I just could not remember what day it was. And it's not the first time. I do that all the time. Every time I go to doctors, different doctors, whatever. I always go, have a good to live overseas. And I was like, what? What do you mean? They're like, oh, I've always wanted to live overseas. No, like, I want to move. So I said, initially I was really unhappy about what he said because for me I felt like I had built my life up and it was really hard. I just finally found comfort. Finally. And it felt like all of that was going to be taken away. And I'd have to start from scratch because I knew if I moved, like that's it for my career. Like when you're a chemical regulatory affairs analyst, I was dealing with regulations in Asia Pacific and Australia and New Zealand specifically, and he wanted to go to Europe. And I never really dealt with European regulations for chemicals. So, like I knew, just, I don't know, gut feeling, I just knew if I moved, like that was it for my career. What are you gonna do? Something in me, also like when you love someone and they say it's been their life dream, like you can't really fucking say anything, or what are you gonna say anymore? So I said, okay, we can move. And then it was really hard getting used to at first. I think it took me about 2-3 years to sort of be at peace with not having anything again. Because that was like the worst memory growing up, not having anything. Always getting chased around for money ever since I was 11 years old. I didn't have anyone looking after me, and that trauma just was really hard. Like not being independent, because my partner had to do a lot more because of my situation. And then at the same time I decided, well, it must be a calling to become a full-time artist, because I knew being in Sydney with all that comfort, like I just could never be the artist that I wanted to. And when you have all that comfort, you also don't, I didn't have anything. Like I had no like artistically I really struggled. I didn't know what to paint, and I couldn't really develop my own signature as well, because I don't know, maybe life was too comfortable. So by moving and going through it's a breakdown, it kind of like really helped me in my artistic direction. And before moving, which was only So I've been in Germany for 3 years now. So altogether, around about 4 years since I've left my job in Sydney. And before 4 years, when I was in Sydney, I wanted to paint in acrylic and I just did not know how. Like I said, I've never learned to paint. I don't know how to paint in acrylic. Now acrylic dries so fast, and to achieve this sort of like a oil painting, like smooth look, I'm like, how the fuck do you do it? I don't know how to do it. And I really tried. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, because that's how I learned to paint, with like anything I've done before. Because before that I did a lot of watercolors. I don't know, like I watched a lot of videos and tried to self-teach again, but I just could not figure the shit out. And just by, I don't know, moving, like one day it just sort of like clicked, like, huh, I don't even know how I did it. It just happened. I mean, like painting in acrylic was really important to me because I didn't really want to use all that chemicals from doing oil painting. I think it's because I was a chemical regulatory first. Like all those like hazardous symbol and on the bottles just kind of like really put me off. That part's a lot better. So I'm going back down here again. So hang on a second. Yeah, and then I started using painting as more of a journal. Like a personal journal. I've never been really good with writing. I've always tried to have a journal because it looks really cool. People who has journals, like, makes them look really sophisticated and clever and like, you know, classy. And really like, oh, you know, like, oh, my journal. Well, it never worked. But I just had a lot in me that I needed to express, and I guess the only way I could do it was through painting. So that kind of became my artistic signature, which is now. So I'm not quite sure why I didn't get this book when I first started. I think maybe I was too young. A bit too young, and yeah, and I don't really get this whole, what do you call it? What do you call it? Personal legend? Yeah, I think I was too comfortable with the stability and whatever that I was experiencing for me to sort of go, oh, I get it. Anyways, damn it, I went over the line. Okay, I'm gonna fix that. Scheiße. Okay. Shoot. I'm just trying to fix this a bit here. Yeah, I think it's fixed. Put a bit more detail. This area. Anyway, so that's actually, I haven't really read that much, but it just took me a while because I did extra research. I get really curious about symbolism. Finding out a lot more about like everything this writer was trying to sort of like tell. And it makes the book extra interesting. I mean, it's a lovely book anyways. Ooh. Alrighty. Ooh. What's going on?
I just had to readjust the camera. Showing too much of your head.
Shit. Crikey. Okay. Move that. I think I'm done. Part that I needed to get done. I don't know if that looks. I don't know if that looks alright. Yeah, so I'll be want to make it a thing to keep reading this book and talk about it next time. So basically where I'm at is Santiago gets rid of all his sheeps and leaves to Egypt. So I'll be, I guess from tomorrow, reading about like what he does in Egypt. Oh, there was an interesting bit where I kind of related a lot. There's a little bit after he spoke to Melchizedek and the gypsy lady, and he's like wondering about the town, like bought some bread because he was hungry and he was thinking about everything, and he goes, kind of got really offended. It's like, why is like none of them like sort of respecting his like, you know, shepherdness? Because he's like, what? Like, because he liked these sheep as well, and everybody's just like, ooh, you need to go find your treasure. And I kind of relate to that, because it's sort of kind of like, it's similar to how I didn't want to give up my career, because, well, I did it 10 years, it's a long time. I wasn't happy 10 years, and for the fact that I survived it and like had to give it all up, all that effort, all of it, to start again. And I'm like, that's pretty shitty, but I don't regret it one bit. You know, I think that's true. When I was when I was working as a regulatory affairs, it did take about 5 years to become an expert in the field and to be called an expert. And then with painting, this is my 4th year now. I mean, like, I've been an artist and I've done exhibitions 10 years now, since I was 25, but I mean, like, you know, like full time, that's only been 4 years. And so I'm just putting a little bit more detail around, because it kind of looked a bit flat. So I think that's a bit more different quality. It's like, you know, like, plants have a lot of brown bitties, and they're not always green greenies. I'm gonna do a bit of that. And shit, I forgot where I was at again. Oh my god, I go all over the place. Oh, I can't remember now. yeah, this job's really cool. It suits me a lot better. Even when I was working in corporate and I had to wear suits every day, I still had my nose ring. And I didn't take it off. So I was like, you know what, that's who I am. I'm not gonna fucking take it off. No one ever said anything, so that's pretty cool. It was actually one of the really nice bosses. So I was really lucky. So I think that's another thing why I sort of like stuck around. And also that's sort of my tendency as well. I don't know if anyone's into astrology, but I'm an ox in Chinese astrology, and I also happen to be a Taurus in Western astrology. So there's a lot of bullness there. And one thing is that I think it's sort of like how like bulls always like to walk forward. So if I choose something that I'll do, I rarely like to go backwards on it. I think it's just sort of like a bullish tendency. So I think that's why I kind of stuck around with that job for a while. I learned a lot of good stuff too. Responsibility, project management, so I think it kind of helps being an artist. Because being an artist, it's hard because you have to be your own boss and there's no one telling you when to finish something, or unless you have like a deadline for a submission or a client. But not all the time you have that. So if you don't have that, it's like, it's really easy to not do it. And we sort of made this like a made up deadline in my head. I really think that's done. But I'm just gonna sort of I don't know. I think that bit needs a bit of calming down, if you know what I mean. Something is not really working for me. So yeah, next time, like I said, I'll be reading about Santiago's journey in Egypt. Good on him. I was really surprised because I thought he really liked that merchant's girl. I mean, daughter, not merchant's girl. Come on. Oi, scheiße. Come it. Come. Slightest hint. Come. It's better. Okay, cool. I think I'm done. I'm not even sure if anyone's online, but if you've stuck around or have been online, thank you so much for joining me. And what's Thursday? No, it's Wednesday today. Next Wednesday at the same time I'll be back and I'll talk about the book more. I don't know if anyone's interested. It's a good book, you should read it. I think everyone should read it. It's like another version of what's it called? Little Prince. And I love that book too. Okay. Done.